Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Madeline Blake and I am super excited to have you joining me today because we are going to be DIYing some mouse ears fit for a Disney princess but without the massive price tag and just using some scraps from my sewing closet. For this project, I used an old pink bedsheet for fabric, a cereal box for the base of the ears, scissors to cut, poly-fil to stuff, rhinestones, ribbon, and tulle for decor, and a hot glue gun to stick it all together. A pencil and something round to use as a stencil are also super handy. I'm starting out by tracing 4 circles on top of the cardboard. These are going to be the base of our ears. I found a cereal box is the perfect thickness of cardboard needed to be easy enough to work with, but strong enough to hold the shape. Once you have all 4 drawn and cut out, it's time to figure out exactly where you want them placed along the headband. I had to kind of eyeball the distance for this since I don't actually own any ears yet, so based off of pictures online, this is what I figured would look good. Once you're happy with how everything looks, we can move on to the fabric portion where we're going to go ahead and trace, which actually I found out later this isn't necessary because we're just going to go and cut squares out of this anyways, but it works to get the general idea of how much fabric you need for each little square. Now it's time to actually start assembling the ears. We're going to load up with a layer of hot glue and then attach a base of poly-fil. We're going to stuff more poly-fil in later, so don't worry about piling it up too high. Now the first time I did this, I was flying totally blind, which is what you're seeing here. It came out pretty okay for the most part. It's a little lumpy, but that's fine. She's going to be covered up by a bunch of tulle anyways. I'm just snipping random pieces and gluing them down and shoving more poly-fil in there until it looks something like a mouse ear half sort of thing, crescent shape object. Now this darling piece is definitely the ugly stepsister of this collection, but that's okay, we're still going to use her. She still has a place. That being said, my techniques certainly did improve. I found a method to the madness that worked for me, just doing tiny little trims all along the sides vertically. I don't know if that makes sense, but you see visually in the video what I did, and look at now I have 4 of them, and they are a little crusty, dusty, lumpy dumpy, but that's okay, because we're going to cover them up with pretty other things. Starting off with these rhinestones I have been gluing to my face for the last 2 years. It's really nice that these have another utility beyond just making my eyes sparkly, so woohoo. I got those off of Amazon a couple years ago for like 10 bucks. I'm sure they're still there, but inflation has probably hiked the price up a little bit. Now I'm grabbing some pink tulle and taking a thin little piece to shove into the crack because I don't have any pipe cleaners, which is what I've seen a lot of other tutorials use, so we're just making it up with the things that we have on hand. I spent a good 20 minutes trying to figure out exactly how I wanted this tulle to lay, which honestly I think was worthwhile. It was really fun. I got to pleat and lay and do all the other dressmaking things that I don't know the words for, but it makes me feel like a fashion designer. So I draped things, and then once I was happy with how the draping went, I took a big old wad of duct tape and I duct taped that tulle to one of the sides, and I went ahead and popped on some hot glue to connect the 2 sides together and make them one unified ear. Now I'm pretty sure I could get away with some serious criminal activity because I no longer have any fingerprints. They have been completely burnt off by the excess amount of hot glue that has seeped out from the ears onto my fingers. So just be careful, please. Right now I'm finally attaching the piece of tulle that we ripped up earlier and just shoving it into the cracks and gluing it in place. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to stick. Finally, I can properly drape this exactly how I want it. I'm twisting it up in the back to kind of gather it into a pretty little veil, and then I'm sealing it all up with a final hot glue smother. I think I forgot to mention that you will need a headband for this DIY, which I'm sure you will have already understood that at this point, but I'm just going to cover up mine with some of the ribbon that I'm using to attach some little bows so that it can be a little bit more cohesive and also really bring that Princess Poppy shine. For the bows, I just cut the ribbon up into little strips and folded them into triangles, hot glued the triangles together, and then sealed it off with a cute little gem in the middle. Once all the individual pieces were constructed, it was time to actually put this whole thing together. So you guessed it, we're gonna pull out the hot glue gun for even more. You will be using more hot glue than you actually think is necessary. Once you've attached the ears to the headband, you can go ahead and add on all your bows and bits and baubles. This whole project took just a little over an hour and I am so happy with the end result. I really didn't have super high hopes for this going into it. I watched a handful of TikTok tutorials just to get an idea. And like I mentioned earlier, all of this was just made using scraps of fabric and ribbon I've thrifted over the years. I hope you give this a go, and if you do, please send me a picture on Instagram. I would absolutely love to see your version. This ended up being such a huge hit at the park and I got so many compliments, so I hope you give it a chance and I hope you love it as much as I did. Thanks for spending a little time with me and I cannot wait to see you soon. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe so we don't miss each other. Mwah! I'll see you soon.